Hello, welcome to Instagram Live. I haven't been on in, I think it's been 6 months now. It's been a long time since the last time I was on. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to take a few minutes here just to settle in and have people come in. Hi. I have a few things that I wanted to talk about today, and also I know a lot of people have submitted questions, which I have right here printed out. I'm definitely going to be talking about those. And then also I had a request for doing a painting from start to finish during the recording, so hopefully I can get that in as well within the hour, which would be really fun. Probably like I don't know, we'll see what comes up. So anyways, how are you all doing? I hope you've been well. As always, I'm going to be filming sideways so that I can upload this to YouTube at the very end for people who might not be able to watch it within 24 hours. And lately, I've noticed that it's been really nice to be able to kind of document these live sessions. And I don't know, I've been kind of thinking a little bit more about YouTube down the line and seeing if there's a way to share a little bit more about the process, behind the scenes. I don't know. I kind of have to think through it still, so. Okay, let me set up my, where should I put this? I'm like trying to do a little makeshift holder here so I can kind of talk a little bit more freely as people come on in. Welcome. That's not gonna work, is it? Let me see. Will this work? Okay. Hola. Welcome. Okay. Is this gonna stay for me? Not staying. Hold on. Because I usually use that tripod back there, but I've set it up so that, I don't know if you can see, but I have my little painting station there today. Happy to see you. Oh, thank you. I see the camera moving a little bit. So I have it set up there, so I'll be using the tripod there, so I'm trying to do like a makeshift thing here. Okay. Let's get started. So I'm going to check the time now, 11:08. So, okay, I have about less than an hour to be on here and answer questions. As always, if any of you have any questions during the session or you want to have a conversation or whatever, it's always free flow. Feel free to write it in the comment section, and then I'll definitely be sure to answer it or try to answer it during the session as best as I can. Okay, so I'm going to go through again the questions, and if anything comes up, we can kind of go from there, which is always fun. This thing is not staying. Stay. Okay. Okay. Oh, but before I start, I actually have some news that I want to share with all of you. I've been debating on how to share it, but I thought it might be kind of appropriate to share it today while I'm on here, and I'll be making an official announcement on my newsletter for January, but since it's live, I thought I'd share it. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody. So my announcement is, I don't know if you can see. Can you guys see? I am expecting. Yeah, I just entered 6 months, and I've been kind of keeping I've been keeping a little quiet about it because it's a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. Women and the whole idea of oh, thank you so much, everybody. The whole idea of women and this idea of like identity and I don't know. It's a subject that's been on my mind for a while now, even before. Konnichiwa. Even before becoming pregnant. Oh, you too. Nice. And I read so many articles about it, and I think that it's really important to address this idea of women shifting into different roles. Thank you. Whether it's a woman coming of age, women going through their 20s looking for the identity, women either getting married or finding a partner, or all these different life changes. I feel like as women we have many many I don't know, labels, I guess. Maybe that's the easiest way to say it. But I feel like, a lot of labels are placed upon us, and depending on which label we're carrying, there's certain stigma or certain, I think, stereotypes that come with it. And so for me, what's really important is the idea that, at the end of the day, we're all human. We all go through different phases in our lives. It doesn't mean that just because you step into one phase, it's any different from who you are as an individual. It's just that, it might seem different from the outside, but I think internally we evolve, of course, but I think the core of who we are doesn't change. And so, my thought was always, how can we almost like normalize the fact that we shift and flow through these different times in our lives, and integrate them so that it addresses, our paths as well as what we need and what we want to project into the world. And so, so that's why I've been kind of holding off on sharing. I've been holding off on sharing about my pregnancy because I wanted it to be something that, I'm a private person to begin with in some aspects, as much as I love sharing as well. But, and also I think that I felt I wanted to intuitively know when the timing was right so that I can talk about it in a way that I felt was representative of who I am, and the way that I want to practice as an artist. So anyways, I think that topic will be coming up probably a lot more, whether it's in the newsletters or, up and coming artwork that I do, poetry, but I'm sure it'll come up. But I think I'm still trying to kind of figure out how to bring these different worlds together, not only for myself, but I think for other artists as well. Because I'm always very informed by what other artists say and how they share their worlds. Some artists really integrate their motherhood and, pregnancy into their work. Other people, have it very separate. And I think either or is great. At the end of the day, it's about respecting the individual and their choices. And not because they're ashamed or because they're afraid, but that it's truly, truly their decision and what makes sense to them. So I feel like there's a fine line there between, honoring yourself and also being part of the conversation of this. Oh, thank you so much. Being the conversation and then kind of not talking about it or hiding it because you're afraid of the backlash or what people might say. So each individual person within the conversation, I think, is important for them to really figure out how they want to be a part of the community and how they want to talk about it and things like that. So anyways, so that's kind of my news that I wanted to share. Okay. So with that said, let me go into the questions. So the first one is from Maria Peregrinelli. Thank you very much. She also asked if I can paint from scratch today. So I will be painting in a little bit over there. I'll shift over there in a second. But before, big news. But before that, her other question was, what are the stages of preparing before you put the paint on a paper, if any? So some of the things that I've talked about in previous interviews and I think it continues to shift as my practice evolves and matures, how I prepare for works, because now that I'm also have started to integrate more mixed media, so oil painting, color pencils, like all these other mediums, I think the way that they, the way that I personally interact with these materials is very different than how I've been interacting with watercolor. So the preparation is a bit different. I think mentally going into it is a bit different, but at the core of my practice, it continues to still be the same, even though it depends day to day, how I'm feeling, especially right now with the pregnancy, being really mindful about trying to tune in with my physical body, not pushing if my body is not, feeling well enough to, or learning how to let go and really flow with, if there's some days where I'm feeling a surge of creativity, then going into the studio and prepping. So some of the things that continue to be kind of the cornerstone of my practice to prepare before I go into the studio is one, I do meditation, or lately it's been a little bit tougher sitting during meditation, and so there's these meditative recordings, I guess, that I listen to when I'm falling asleep at night, and it's almost like subconsciously I'm tuning into a frequency while I'm sleeping. So my husband calls it mind control, but in a way I guess it is, because you're trying to program your mind and your subconscious to, for me at least, to better attune to my own way of wanting to be with my spirit. So and I find that when I'm falling asleep or when I'm sleeping, it really shifts things in a very radical way, even more so sometimes than when I'm meditating, I think, when I'm awake. So that's been kind of something new that I've been trying, and it's really been interesting how it shows up in my daily life. For example, I have a lot of stuck energy in regards to health, because it's something that I've been dealing with all my life. And one of the recordings that I listened to, it talks about radiant health and all these affirmations and things, that this gentleman who recorded it talks about. And I can feel my mind shifting throughout the day, where before sometimes I would get in this almost like broken record repeat of health issues and kind of going down this like not so good path. But before I knew it, it's almost like as if my mind subconsciously was shifting, and I can feel, like it's not, how do I say it, it doesn't feel as heavy as it did before. So anyways, sorry, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but so yeah, meditation still cornerstone, in different forms, whatever works for you. And I think that too shifts as we move into different aspects of our lives, or even just day to day. Some days we might be more open to a sitting practice. Some days we might be a little bit more restless, and we might need to do something that's more physically, again, a more involved meditation. So I feel that it's important to be open to what you feel called to do that day, and kind of honoring that, and and making that part of the process. Another thing for me is reading is still a big part of preparation for the studio. And some people might not see the connection with painting and reading, but for me it's huge, because it helps to, again, shift my mind into a certain space. And I noticed that with painting, especially the type of painting that I feel I gravitate towards, it's really important to be in a particular mind frame, and in a certain space almost. And so with reading, it really helps to kind of shift my mind into that space and be able to channel the energies that I want and need to into the paintings that I'm creating. So that's 2. Journaling is 3, although it's been a little bit tougher for me to journal consistently, but when I do, it really does help a lot. And it kind of, what it does is it helps to bring together all the different things that are happening internally. Okay, I'll definitely answer your question. And it helps to kind of see visually for me, when I journal, kind of all the different things that are going on in the mind. So when I do come into the studio to paint, it's almost like I've had moments where I can expand my mind, which is meditation, and then read, which helps to kind of feed, nurture the mind and the spirit. And then the journaling kind of brings everything together. And then the other practice I do before I go into studio is yoga, or some kind of body movement, so that I'm able to flow and feel more relaxed, and really try to stay in tune with the physical aspect of this vessel that I'm using to paint with. I mean, it's really, I think it's key to keep the physical body maintained, because not only with yoga, but with eating right, right is the wrong word, with eating in a way that I guess tunes with your body is the most important. So there's a lot of different diets out there, and I think they're all, many of them are wonderful. What I've found is that you have to find, thank you, good to see you. You have to find what works for you, because some people, being a vegan really heightens their energy, which is great. Some people, pescatarian diet, some people paleo. So I think it's important to be guided by your body and intuition, seeing what nurtures your body and makes you feel optimally well. And this all ties back into the creative process and being an artist and being present, because if you don't feel well, it's hard to perform at a level that you're able to fully release yourself when you're creating. So so I think those are some of the things that I do to prepare myself to come into the studio to paint. And it's just not only for painting, but lifestyle choices that I think are really key to, at least for me, key to be able to, I think, do this practice in the long run. So hopefully that answers your question, Maria. Thank you for sending it in. So the question I just saw right now, what books do I read? So I read a lot of different kind of books. I try to keep my mind open as much as I can, but I tend to gravitate towards like books that are kind of an intersection between spirituality and science. I really like, because I noticed that science, the more advanced it goes, the more it talks about okay, thank you for your question. I'll definitely answer it. I noticed that science is more and more, the things that they're discovering and finding are a lot of the things that the spiritual masters have been talking about, eons ago, and it's almost like they're starting to converge. And so I find that these books are really fascinating about like quantum physics and universal energies and all these different things. So those are types of books I like reading. But I also like very spiritual, philosophical, even some texts are religious in some contexts that I like reading. I like reading romantic novels that are like comedy mixed into it. But when I choose a book, I always try to let my intuition guide me, because I notice that that's kind of key to showing me what it is that I need to read at the moment. So if you're curious, I have a Goodreads account, and I have posted there the books that I've been reading. So if any of you are curious and you're on Goodreads, take a look. That's kind of my little bookshelf there. But yeah, it's interesting to sometimes find myself finding books that I wouldn't read, but after I started reading it, then it makes sense as to how it kind of ties into what it is that I'm needing at the moment. It's really crazy how it aligns like that. So anyways, but yeah, so you can check out the books on my Goodreads. Okay, so question from So Hilarious. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you're here too. Thank you for joining. So she writes, any plans on creating a new book in the near future? So yes, I actually, well, yes and no, I guess. So I was and still am working on a book, but I have to put it on hold for now because the universe actually, when I tuned in recently, said that I need to shift my focus back to painting. So I still do have a book that I've been working on in mind, and it's still in the works, but it probably won't be coming out as soon as what I was originally told to release it. So again, one of these things where you want to, it's important for us to continue to keep tuning into ourselves and continuing to tune into our intuitive and higher selves and seeing what happens, because life is always shifting and we never know what direction we're going next. So as much as I want to release the book as soon as possible, it's gonna be a little bit on hold for now. Yes, I'll keep it on, and then I'll actually be posting it onto my YouTube channel afterwards as well. So if you're not able to catch it within the next 24 hours, you can always check it out there. I'll put it up, unless Instagram doesn't let me download it, which happens sometimes. Okay, so thank you for your question. Okay, so what was the other one? I just saw, hold on, I'm kind of scrolling because I just saw one. Okay, here we go. All right, so the question is, hello, who's your main reference on your works? Okay, so I don't know if I have like a main reference, but the artists that I tend to continue to go back to, or the ones that I feel really drawn to, are Agnes Martin. Um, and I think it's more of the way that she approached her work, and even her life. It's pretty interesting. I haven't had a chance to really dive into like her biography, but the philosophy behind her work and how she approached it really intrigues me. I really like the work of oh my gosh, my brain is blanking. Hold on a second. I have it all written down here because my brain is not always it's not always on right now. Oh yes, and then Hilma F. Klint, which I know many of you probably recently have heard a lot about her work. I don't know if I really connect with the visual aspect of her work. I mean, I find it fascinating how she integrated the spiritual with the visual, but oh, thank you so much. I'll definitely answer your question, Sayaka-san. Arigatou gozaimasu. And but I am very interested in the way that she and the women that she was a part of, the group, channel these energies into artwork. And so I continue to follow her work, especially I don't know if you guys have seen, but she has a book, or there's a book out of her sketches and notes, and that's really, really fascinating if you're into the convergence of art and spirituality. I definitely say check it out. It's really interesting. And then the last artist that I continue to be drawn to is Helen Frankenthaler, and I think that for her work, that one's probably most visually for me, the most connected. Oh, I know, I wanted to see it. I heard it was amazing. But yeah, her work I think visually captures me, or feels the most closest to what I feel drawn to visually, and I think there's like a lot of freeness to her work and openness that I love. Oh, okay. Oh, I miss you too. Oh, sending you love. So those are the three artists that I continue to really be drawn towards, not only because they're women artists, but I think just the way that, for various reasons, the way that they've approached their practice, I think is really, really interesting. Okay, hopefully that answered your question. Let me see if there was another one that I just saw. Okay. Okay, let me answer Sayaka-san's before I go back to my list here. So Sayaka Teruya-san writes, how do you manage if you had bad dreams often? Okay. Oh, I think I saw your question in my list too. Hold on, I'm gonna check it off so I don't answer it again. Okay. So with dreams, what I found, what I've been finding out is that even with bad dreams and good dreams, it's almost like okay, well here's how I kind of filter out the difference. So if the dream, when I wake up in the morning, I can't remember the details, it's kind of fuzzy, and it's just that I sort of remember that I had a dream. For me, it usually is just a dream. It's just the mind, kind of like a computer, it's defragmenting, all the stuff that's happening. So I let it go. But if it's a dream that continues to repeat, like bad dreams a lot of times do, repeat, and I remember details, and there's specific moments in the dream where it evokes a particular emotion or memory or something that really sticks with me, then I know that it's probably a message that's coming through, whether it's through my subconscious or whether it's through, like a higher self or something. So that's when I start to decode it. And with bad dreams, what I've found is that even if the dream itself is bad and it makes you feel not so great when you wake up in the morning, a lot of times it's because it's trying to evoke a strong message to you about something that is being said in the dream. So not necessarily negative in terms of how it affects your life or what it's trying to say, but it could mean that it's really trying to point you into a direction. And sometimes as humans, we can't clearly get the message unless we are almost shaken up. So whether it's through fear or some kind of difficulty. we tend to just brush it off like it's no big deal. Like if you think about it, right? Unfortunately, a lot of times, we have very happy moments and then we have very serious, scary, fearful moments. And the fear-based moments tend to stick with us longer than the more, happier moments. So it just, I don't know, there's just this conditioning, I think, in the human mind that it tends to stay. So what I would say is the way that I get over bad dreams is first to wake up in the morning. If it sticks with me, I start to decode it. I break it down into, okay, what are the different episodes within the dream that really stuck out to me? And then I would write it down just without judgment, like for example, someone died in front of me, or I fell off a cliff, or I don't know, saw something gory or whatever it is, but I write it. And then on next to it, I'll write what it is about that made me feel the way that it did in the dream. Like, what is it that was attached to that moment that is sticking to my mind? So for example, if someone's dying, then I might write next to it like fear of losing someone I love, or fear of seeing death, or fear of death maybe, or fear of health declining, or whatever it is. But I don't think, I just intuitively write. So right when I see the words that I wrote first about the dream, hi Sarika, about the dream, I immediately go next to it and write intuitively what it is that stuck. Now, by doing this exercise, one, it helps to desensitize you to it being a bad dream, because what happens is if you kind of put it under like this bad dream umbrella, what happens is that you it continues to be like a bad thing, whereas maybe it's not. Maybe it could be, but you don't know yet. So it's better to try to kind of separate yourself from that bad feeling and really see what it is that's trying to come through to help you to kind of understand, the meaning behind the dream. So I would go and kind of decode it like that. And then once I do that, then I try to sit there and think about the intuitive side of what I wrote. Like, okay, so what in my current life do these things connect to? For example, the declining of health. Like, okay, so in my life right now, maybe I'm going through some health issues and it causes me to feel fear of death maybe. And why? Why is it because I have no solution to that health issue? Is it because I feel like nothing's getting better, things are getting worse? What is causing that? And then at the very end of it, I try to see if those feelings and thoughts are truths, like if it's real, if it's not. And if there's solutions behind it, I try to see if there's a way to approach it that in real life, not in the dream, but in real life, to see if there's ways of working with it. And good. And sometimes, the answers might not come clearly, and the ones that don't come to me right away, that's when I start to meditate about it, or I'll start to kind of put it into universe and say, there's this thing, this blockage, this fear, this issue that I have, and I want to know how to get over. I want to know how to overcome it, or I want to know how to integrate it. Please help me through it. And so I'll kind of put it out there, and eventually I'll get an answer somehow, some way that'll help me to kind of sift through these. So I found that once I'm able to kind of go through this process, the bad dreams that happen over and over, it actually started to diminish. And at the same time, I wasn't as scared as I was before of having bad dreams, because I started to see like a pattern that it's not always bad per se, but it could be something like a strong message that's coming through. So yeah. And also, don't be afraid to, if breaking it down might still feel a little overwhelming, I think what really helps a lot of times is just talking about it with someone that understands you, and maybe working through this with them. Maybe they can help you through it, talking about it, and just helping you to calm yourself down. And because the important thing is to detach yourself from this fear of bad dreams and fear of negativity behind sleep, because a lot of times sleep is where we get a lot of the messages and information. So hopefully that answers your question, Sayaka. Thank you for asking. Okay, so let me go through this chat real quick, see if anybody asked any questions. I don't see any. Okay, cool. Let me check the time. We're still okay. Okay, so now, and hello to everybody that's joining. I'm just answering questions that were submitted, so I'm going to continue on here. Oh, okay. Let me hold off on that question. Let me answer one here real quick, and then I'll definitely get to your question. Okay. So the next question is, oh, let me kind of cross these out here. Okay, so they ask, Sedi Beck, thank you very much for sending in your questions. So they write, what paper, paint, and pencils do you use? And she also has two other questions, but I'll answer this one first. So for paper, I like 3 brands, and I kind of use them interchangeably depending on what work that I'm working on. Sure. And one of them is Canson cold press paper, watercolor paper. I love it. It has probably the roughest texture, at least for me, it has the most roughest texture out of the 3 that I use. And oops. And I use it more when I'm doing gestural works or works where I really want the paper texture to come through. So I don't use it often, but when I'm in that mood, then I tend to use that. And then the one that's kind of like the in-betweener for me, that is the all-around paper, is the Fabriano Artistico paper in cold press. I like cold press paper for watercolor. And I feel like that is kind of an in-between, not so rough and you know, have a lot of texture. But there's enough that it really makes the watercolor beautiful and stand out. So I love that. And then the other one that I use is the Moulin du Roi cold press. And what I love about that paper is it has like this buttery smoothness with a little bit of texture. So it almost has like a refined feel to it when I paint with it. And I feel very fancy when I'm painting on that paper. So those are the 3 that I use often. And there's a few others, but those are like the main ones that I like to work on with watercolor paper-wise. Paint, I tend to use, let me think, what do I like using? The Ordem Schminky. I still have to figure out how to pronounce that correctly. I've probably said this on a video so many times. But I do like that one a lot. And then I also like, let me see, where is my, Aqua Duo? Oh, hold on, let me go grab it. I don't know if you can see, I'm gonna go grab my paints there to show you. Let's see here. If you can see my little wall of paints here. Okay, so, oh, this is all gouache. Where are my watercolor paints? Oh, I think I have them all put away. Okay, sorry. They're all kind of put away. So I also like the Winsor and Newton watercolor paints. I just recently started using a little bit more of their pigments, but it's really nice and rich, which I like. And then I also like yeah, I mean, I use some other ones which are good, but I would say those are the 2 that I like the most, just for my own personal reasons when I'm painting. And then pencils, what do I use? Oh, okay, pencils. I'll show you. So for pencils, I use, this is one of the ones I use. Oh, can you see? Oh, it's backwards. So I really like this Super Color soft, which is really nice. It's actually not that soft, but it's okay. And it's a watercolor pencil, so when you add water to it, it activates it. The other one that I like using, watercolor pencil, is this one, the museum one. And this one actually is softer than the Super Color, but I tend to use these 2 watercolor pencils a lot, which it turns out very beautifully. They react differently to water, so it's kind of fun to use them interchangeably. And then just for non-water soluble pencils, I like to use this one. I don't know, the Pablo. And what's great is that, again, this is not water soluble. So when I'm painting over or underneath it, it reacts differently with the paper and the water. So it's kind of fun. But yeah, so those are the color pencils that I use. And then a few other ones, but the main ones, those are kind of like the main ones that I tend to use. Okay. And then her next question was, how long on average do you spend painting a day? Okay, so this is a little tricky question because I've tried so far painting every day. I've so far tried painting whenever I feel like it, and everything in between. And what I've found is that all three methods kind of produce a different kind of practice and flow. And it really depends on what type of person you are and what works. For me, I found that when I paint every single day, or I kind of treat it like a regimen or something that I do every day, I do enjoy it, but it starts to become very stressful for me because it's almost like I feel like I have to do it. And anytime my work, I feel like I have to do it unless I'm on a deadline, it becomes very stiff. So what I've found for me is that I don't paint every day, but I'm always allowing my creative self to feel fulfilled in some shape or form. So it might not be painting, but I might be doing something else creative. And when I do paint, it can be anywhere between 20-25 minutes. If that's as much time as I can do physically, it can be hours. But my limit is about 4 hours of work with breaks in between per day. And just painting, not including admin. And the reason why is because it requires a lot of concentration and just focus. And because of that, if I do any more than that, I start to burn out pretty bad. Physically and mentally, I get very foggy and my body feels really achy. So I think that's kind of the limit for me. If I were to paint for like hours straight, I think it'd be about 4 hours. And then the other question was, how would you describe your work ethic? I'm sorry, I'm reading other people's comments about like the 365 challenge and stuff. So it works for some people, which I think is great. And for other people like myself, it just ends up being a very stressful exercise that I kind of don't enjoy, or my work starts to look really sloppy because it's almost like I'm doing it just for the sake of doing it. And that's not the way that I want to approach my work. So even if I'm in my sketchbook, I don't want to approach it in a very messy way or doing it just because I need to. So I don't think, for me, it doesn't really work. Okay, so my work ethic, how would I describe it? Free-flowing? I mean, I have to admit, I think I work hard, but not hard in the sense of, like, maybe some people might not see it as hard because they'll be like, oh, you only work, I don't know, a few hours a day, or that's, compared to other people, that's not much. But I feel that, one, you have to look at each individual person and everything that's kind of in their life. Like, for example, if there's like a mother of 3 and she's only able to paint 15-20 minutes a day, but she's putting her 15-20 minutes, with full intention, I still feel like that's hard work, and maybe it's hard is not the right word. Maybe it's she has strong work ethic in terms of that's kind of what she allocated for herself. And maybe some people who are physically able to work 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, or that's their choice, or they need to, that's also very hardworking because that's what they need to do in their life. So I feel like each person is different, and work ethic in terms of the amount that you do, I don't think is equivalent to how dedicated or how hard of a worker you are. I think it comes down to what is your intention behind the work that you're doing for whatever amount of time that you're able to do it, and how much of yourself are you putting into it? Is it 100%? Then I feel like even if it's 5-10 minutes, it's still a lot of, it's all of yourself, really. So in that sense, I think my work ethic is good, and I'm very serious about my practice. So it's consistent, but I wouldn't say consistent like I'm painting every single day for 5 hours every day from 10 to 5 or whatever it is, 10 to 3 or whatnot. And, that's not to say that my work ethic is any less than someone that has a serious, serious practice in terms of hours, but it's just the way that I work, and I think it works well for me. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Hello to everybody that's joining. Thank you so much for joining. I gotta start painting soon so I don't run out of time here. I might have to restart a second Instagram just to paint. Kind of scrolling here to see if there's any questions. Okay, no questions here. All right, I'm gonna keep going then on the list here. Okay, so the next question is from Hiragare Neko. Thank you for your question. They write, do you have some Japanese words that evoke... Oops. Whoa, sorry about that. Do you have some Japanese words that evokes nostalgic feelings? For example, mono araware. So, I see your little mark there. Oh yeah, I'll answer your question. Sorry, how to price artwork. Someone asked that too, so I'll definitely answer that next. So I don't know if there's any words that evoke like. See, Japanese is so hard because I feel like everything is so nuanced, and it also depends on like the context of the conversation. But the types of words that give me like a nostalgic feeling tend to be words that are part of like the changing of seasons. Like I feel very nostalgic when I can smell the fall in the air, or I can see the color of the sunlight starting to change because the seasons are changing, or it's like these little moments where like smell, light, color, textures, these little nuances change. And then in Japanese, there's a lot of words that describe these little small minute changes. And those are the type of words that really evoke like a nostalgic feeling in me. It's almost like the old wise old woman man inside me feels very called to this, I don't know, these like seasonal changes. So maybe shunka shuto, or like I don't know, there's like so many that I can't think of. I would say though, check out a lot of Japanese like seasonal haikus. They have some really good words in there that are very season oriented, and some of them are very old school, but they're really beautiful. And those are kind of the type of words that evoke nostalgia in me. Hopefully that answers your question. Sorry, I can't think of like any particular words right now, but just that whole realm is kind of gives me that feeling. Okay, so I'm gonna answer the question now. So how do you price your artwork? Oh, arigato. Good. Okay, so to answer that question, so the way that I price it, it's a little bit of mix of intuitive talking with the universe, and it's also a little bit of research. So when I first started pricing my artwork, I looked at various artists who I felt were kind of in the same realm as I was, at the same, I guess, place in their career as I was, who were doing like watercolor painting or selling works of like similar nature. And then I was seeing how much they were selling it for, and it's really all over the place, but I kind of averaged it out. And then I saw an article about how much to charge per square inch, which made a lot more sense as well. So I kind of combined the three together. So figuring out kind of the average of what artwork was being sold for at that stage in my career. And then two, asking the universe and meditating and seeing what really felt good. Actually, you know what? The order would be one, researching. Two, figuring out within that research how much per square inch the artwork would cost if it was within that price range. And then 3, taking those numbers and asking the universe or your intuitive self if it makes sense and if it feels good, if it aligns. When I did step 3, some numbers I felt were a little bit low, and there were actually some numbers that I felt were a little bit high. And so I kind of made the adjustment there at the end of the day, and then that's how I ended up pricing it. So, but now, as my career progresses and I start to change the pricing, I look at my pricing once a year, and I see, what works are selling well, what works are, taking a little bit more time to sell, mediums and all that things. But at the end of the day, the process is still pretty similar in the sense of taking an average of, the pricing for my works now. I don't really too much nowadays compared to like how much other people are pricing. I think that only applies more in the beginning when you're trying to find a baseline. But as your career progresses and you have more idea of like how much things are selling for, what you feel comfortable with, then I just make small incremental adjustments now. I talk with my gallery and we kind of come up with something that feels fair and comfortable. And at the end of the day, I ask the universe if it feels right. And that's kind of how I come up with my pricing. So it's probably not the traditional way of doing it, but hopefully that kind of makes sense and answers your question. Okay. So the question is, speaking of pricing, are you open for Miru sessions mid to end of 2021 or on a hiatus? Okay, so, thank you for all the questions. I'll answer them. So for Miru sessions, for those of you who are unfamiliar, it's I do energy readings, and it's reading only or the full Miru session. Okay. The whole Miru session consists of an energy reading, which is an hour via Skype, and then I channel the energy that I saw, felt, heard, and channeled it into like a 5x7 painting, energy painting for that individual. And then on the back of it, if a message had come through, I'll write it on the back so that it really solidifies that energy for that individual, and it can be used on your altar, in your bag. It's pretty much what helps. Ooh, I'm getting like a high-pitched sound. Usually means some kind of messaging is coming in. Anyways, I'll have to tune into that later. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So the Miru session also includes this amulet, which is called an omamori. But to answer your question, I will probably be taking a break April, May, maybe June next year, so 2020. And then after that, I unless something happens, some changes happen, I plan to go back to opening up the Miru sessions as I have been, because I do have kind of a waiting list. So I want to make sure that I'm, having sessions available for people. So anyways, if you want to look over some times and dates, feel free to email the studio, hello@satsukishibuya.com. And then we can figure out some dates that work for you and take it from there. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so the next question is, how did you market yourself when you were starting out? Okay, so I'm just trying to think, because I've started out a few times, because I've changed career paths a few times. But if we're just talking about painting, this painting part of my creative path, I think a big component for me was social media was huge. I mean, I can't deny that. At the time, I was really active on Pinterest when it was more of a platform that people used to promote their work. So I was on Pinterest a lot. That was when Instagram kind of started up in the beginning. So those are kind of major ways that I marketed my work, I guess. But I never really thought about it as marketing. It's always been kind of, at least with painting, my intention has always been to share. It's almost like sharing a part of my spirit with others through painting. So I think what's helped for me is having this understanding that, yes, in a way, I guess, by sharing it on social media or talking about my work, it is in a form marketing, but I look at it more in terms of what is it that I want to contribute to the world, and how is it that I want to be a part of it. For me, I feel like it's through art in different forms, and what's the best way for me to do it, and it has been social media. So I would say that's a huge component. I think other ones are having friends really support it and, you know, talking about it, which is always really nice. And then also if there's any events that call out to you that you want to be a part of, you know, to maybe talk about your work, like if there's a talk or like a market where you can sell some prints or something. I think those are some other ways to get your work out. But again, don't feel like you have to force yourself to market. I think the most important thing that people will naturally gravitate towards is things that you naturally align to. So if you're a very outgoing person and you like to talk to people, then I think it would be beneficial to find ways of getting out there, going to different events, meeting people, and then naturally talking about your work and sharing it. And if you're more of an introvert like me, then maybe your choice would be more online, like participating in like online shows, you know, gallery shows, which are more prevalent now. You know, having a presence on social media is really good, I think. Having like a website that people can come to. So kind of building out your more digital self, I think would really help. And then being part of the more online community and things like that. So those are some ways that I think I did it in the beginning. And then, you know, these things, honestly, I feel like it just takes a lot of time, like persistence. Not in a bad way, like you have to keep going, but more like persistence in a sense of, you know, knowing that having the patience to just keep doing what you do, and, you know, day in and day out, you know, you just do it because you love it or because you feel called to do it, and know that it will slowly start picking up momentum as you keep working on it, I think is really key. Oh, and also if there's other blogs or sites that you feel align with you, then maybe you can approach them and say like, oh, you know, here's some works that I've been working on, or here's a collection of works, or here's something, you know, would you mind sharing it? Or I love your blog. Would there be any way that it can be integrated into your post? You know, something where it's not like you're putting it on them, but it's just an option for them to share some content that has to do with your work. So building relationships, I think, to be able to approach people instead of doing like a cold call or cold email, I think is always good. Hopefully that gives you some ideas. Okay, let me see. I'm kind of running out of time here. I have 2 more questions on my paper, and I have a few here, and I want to make sure I paint. So I might have to log back on for another session. But let me write down the questions so I don't lose them. Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm going to answer this one right now. So the question is, do you have any recommended daily meditation routine? God, I'm being greedy. No, you're not. You're so cute. Oh, thank you. So there's not any one particular one, but there's an app that I've been using called Insight Timer. It's a meditation app. It's free if you want to use it free. I subscribe to them because I want to support their app and the teachers on there, but it's great. For those who want to meditate with music, there's something there. If you want to meditate with guidance, something there. If you want to meditate with just a gong, it's there. So that helps to kind of keep me on track of my meditation practice. But other meditations that I've looked into that I really love, and I think what I love about meditation, and if you get into different kinds, is you can use whatever one feels right to you. Like some days you might just want to have like a really simple breathing meditation. Excuse me. Other times you might want to get into like a Tibetan, you know, compassionate heart meditation. Sometimes you might want to do like a chakra aligning meditation. I mean, there's so many out there. So what I would suggest is, again, follow your intuition. Whatever you find interesting, try it out, see if it feels right. And then start building your repertoire of meditation types, I would say. And then you have these little drawers of meditation things that you can like pull out at will, whatever you're feeling for the day. Maybe you just need like a few minutes of light meditation, so you're like tuning into your higher self. Other days maybe you just want to, I don't know, have like a walking meditation, Buddhist meditation, you know. So have fun with it. I think that's what's great about meditation, is there's just so many options, and one size doesn't fit all. So find what works for you, and and again, just be open. I think that's the best way to approach it. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay. Next question. Do you recommend working with a gallery? I think working with a gallery that really aligns with your work and who believes in what you do, and there's like a mutual respect, not so much like you are at the mercy of the gallery, or like the gallery is trying to just hoard artists. That I don't think is okay. But if there's a gallery that you really feel called to be a part of, and that they really love your work, like truly love it and support it, then I would say yes, it's worth working with a gallery, because then I feel like you get the support and the artist community and the insight of professionals who are really tuned into like that part of their industry. So, I work with my gallery, there's like artist managers and people who are really tuned in with working with like collectors and things that I don't have knowledge of. I feel like by working with a good gallery, you're able to learn as well as being supported of your career. So I don't think any artist necessarily needs a gallery. You can always, sell your work directly to collectors, which is also really nice. I do that as well. And, there's a very nice relationship that comes from that. So, I think, again, finding what works for you is like key for like a long-term career is what I'm starting to really understand, is that there's really no one way of doing it. And again, success is based on your own definition. So whatever you want in your art career and how you want it to progress is how you want to build it out. So for example, if you're a type of artist that wants like really big commercial success, then maybe that means yes, you might have to align with a lot of big galleries. But what I found is that what you think you want and what your spirit really wants, or your heart really wants, can be two very, very different things. And you don't know until you try it. Like there's so many things I thought I wanted that I sound so great. And I tried going in that direction. I'm like, I don't really like it, or I wasn't feeling it. So being honest with yourself and what that means, and, just honoring that part of yourself, I think is really important. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Long time no see. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you everybody. Okay, so now I'm gonna stop this recording, and I'm gonna start a new Instagram live so that I can answer 2 more questions, and then I'm going to be painting in the studio to make sure that I get that all in. So this will be up on YouTube, also on my Instagram for 24 hours, so you can check it out there. I will see you at the next recording in like a few seconds. See you in a second. Bye. And we are back. Session number 2 of 2. There won't be more than 2 today. I have to make sure I don't go over time for this one. I'm gonna wait until people come back in. Thank you so much for rejoining. Sorry I had to cut off that other one. Thank you for coming back, everybody. Hello. Okay. Great. So people are coming back. Thank you so much. So there was one other question on my sheet here that I didn't get a chance to finish answering. So I need to kind of flip my screen real quick, and I'll show you what I'm looking at on my computer screen. Okay. Hopefully you can all see this. So the question is, can you take us through your various art styles till you arrived at the current one? Okay, so I will be doing just that. Hello to everybody who's rejoining or joining now. Hello. Okay, so this is an art cataloging, I don't want to say site, I guess. Oops. I'm going to close that. Art cataloging site that I use. It's called Art Engine. I really love it. And it kind of catalogs all the different works that I currently have or have done, and it keeps track of it. So just to kind of show you the works that I have done towards the beginning of my painting career, and then walk you through them. So some of my earlier works, for example, are like Simplexity. Let me show you this real quick. I don't know if you can see it. So in the more towards the beginning of my painting career, I was using more like graphic shapes. My background's in graphic design, so I'm really drawn to shapes and kind of like this organic feel. And I was signing my name down here on the painting itself, which at the time, really felt right to me. And so that's kind of what I was doing. And then I started to move into, oh, can I go back? Oh, how do I go back? Okay, let's see. And then let me see if there's more works from my past. Oh yeah, things like, I don't know if you can see it, but like Third Eye right there, 2015. So that's more of like my older works. And then as I moved more into, like, if you can tell, they're like definitely more figurative, the works that I was doing before. And then I started to loosen up a little bit, like for example here, like somatic. It was starting to become more and more about letting go of the shapes and allowing the intuitive side of me, the more energy side, to kind of come through. And then let me see if, yeah, we're kind of still in that same realm. I was doing a lot of exploring at that time of painting multiples of similar shapes. And then let me see when the shift happens. So as you can tell, like for example, this atmospheric up here. Ooh, can I show? Yeah, right here. So for example, this piece here is when I started to, still signing on the bottom, but I started to really expand into not so much being caught up in a particular shape or form, but really working on the idea of, how can I capture the energy of what it is that I'm looking. So this is part of my Tozan series. I made a lot of paintings depicting mountains. In Japanese, Tozan means to climb mountain. So I was working on a lot of this type of work in order to expand from doing figurative art. And then let me see if I can go back here. Where was Tozan right now? Is it around 10? Oops, sorry, my screen. Let me move up more. And this is all done chronological, which is also great about Art Engine. I love it. And then in 2016, as you can tell, more and more loosening up of, more and more into abstract versus figurative shapes, which I still love shapes. I think it's kind of coming back into my work right now, but I continue to push, I think, the boundaries of the figurative versus like the abstraction of energy. And I really like being in that realm, I think. And then this is like completely starting to shift. So this is actually oil sticks, and some color pencils. But this is when I started to really capture like sound waves and energy within sound and colors. Oh, thank you for joining. And as you can tell, my signature from the bottom has left by this point because I'm really concentrating on the idea of people having an experience when they're looking at the painting. And I felt that maybe having my signature down there was a little bit of a deterrent or kind of getting in the way of the experience. So I started to put it on the back, omit it from the front. And yeah, and this is more when the shift started happening into figuring out how to capture energy more in a way that feels, how do I describe it? Not so directly related to what you're looking at, but more of a experience or a feeling, I think. And then, so as you can see, it's kind of, more in the realm of like loosening up. This is more 2018 work, so I'm really starting to let go of shapes. And then, and these are some of the ones that are more recent, but are in the shape realm. Is sometimes I'll have requests or commissions from companies or projects, and they request certain types of paintings, and so I'll still do some things that are more related to the work that I used to do, and I still love it. It's not that I don't like doing these types of works, but right now it's kind of exploring this realm here, and seeing where that goes. And then this is actually kind of an interesting one because this is really going back to that simplistic shape thing, one of my most recent oil paintings. But what's different about this shape one compared to the ones before is that this one was particularly specific. Like, for example, the distance between here and the distance between the shape is very particular. And this actually came into my mind during meditation very clearly. So this is more of a message painting versus like a shape painting that I used to do. So even though it might look the same, like shape-wise, it's actually approached in a very different way, which I thought was interesting. So yeah, hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of a peek into my process. Oops, hold on, let me set this up again. Into the way that I've progressed my art practice throughout the years. It's been continually evolving, and I wouldn't say that it's anywhere near I'm not the type of artist where I'm continuing to like paint the same thing over and over. I do sometimes like to stay in a particular like visual realm, but I always am curious to explore more. So I think for people who have been following my work for a while now have noticed that I have shifted into different directions numerous times, and it's just the way that I like to work and stay connected to myself and be honest with what I want to paint and create, even if it means that it might not be the most popular painting, or it might not be what people want to necessarily see at the moment, but I don't want to ever lie, I guess, to myself, and paint just for the sake of selling paintings, I guess, is kind of an easy way of saying it. Yeah. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. Thank you very much. Okay, so next question is from Beating with Words. Thank you very much. And they write, do you have any unsold paintings? If so, what do you do with them? Any emotional struggles? Okay, so yes, I have many paintings that are part of my private collection that I haven't released yet, and some I just want to keep for myself, because a lot of times there's certain paintings that are kind of the turning point in my work, and I know that there's something different about it, and I want to keep those marker points to reference back, like, oh, this is a time when this shift happened, and this is a time when this thing happened. So there are some paintings that I don't sell just for the sake of, personal reasons. The ones that don't sell, I continue to keep it because I never know, you never know, like, so again, this kind of goes back to the whole idea of, doing things for a long period of time. It's funny how maybe you are at one point in your career and doing a certain type of work, but then someone discovers your work like that you did, 5 years ago, and they're really, really into that work, and they might contact you and say, oh, I saw this painting on wherever they found it. Do you have any more like that? And if you have some works that haven't sold, maybe at that point you could say, oh yeah, actually I do. Here are some of them, and you can share it. And so that's kind of a nice way of being able to connect with a collector who's looking for a particular piece, to be able to say like, oh yeah, actually I do. And also I feel that as I love selling paintings because it feels like things kind of like the circle completes when a painting sells. Like, I have an intention, I have like this thing, this energy that I'm creating for the world, which is like 50% of the circle. And then when someone decides to, very graciously spend their very hard-earned money to purchase a painting and put it into their space or give it, it's almost like, they're becoming a part of that process, of finishing that circle. So it's very, very lovely when I'm able to sell a painting. But as I've kind of shared before, is, at the end of the day, as an artist, having what is the intention behind your work? What are you trying to do? If your intention is to sell work, then that's going to look very different from maybe someone like myself who is painting more in terms of wanting to share like a message or an energy or intention, So I think having a very clear idea of how it is you want to approach your practice is really important in managing your emotions of, is a painting selling well, is it not? So for example, if a painting is not selling, now for someone like me where that's not the main goal, then I wouldn't feel too emotionally distraught by it, because I feel like, well, when the time and the situation aligns, then it'll find its home or it'll find its way. And if not, then it's meant to stay with me. So I don't feel so emotionally distraught. But for example, if it's like another artist where their focus is on selling and commercial art, and there's nothing wrong with that, that's just a different way of working, then maybe they'll feel more distraught if their artwork doesn't sell. And at that point, then you would want to reevaluate, okay, do I want to maybe sell it as prints? Or maybe do I want to approach my art in a different way that's more marketable? So again, it's not so much of trying to do everything, because that's impossible, but it's trying to figure out, okay, one, what kind of artist am I? What kind of art practice do I want? And then from there, figuring out what your parameters are and what your expectations are. And then that, I think, will give a more realistic idea of how to approach obstacles like selling, marketing, people's recognition of your work and things like that. I think would make more sense, I think, in the long run. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. I think I saw another question here. Let me come up real quick. And thank you all again who are joining. It's always wonderful to be able to connect with all of you. Oh, wow, from Germany. Hello. Okay, so let's see. The first question I see here. What website are you using there to organize your artwork images? Oh, it's Art Engine. I think the site is artengine.io. And they're based out of Germany, actually. Or Belgium? No, I think Germany. But check them out. I've used them for years now, and it's really great. I think for what you get, it's really affordable compared to some other art cataloging systems out there. And yeah, and I like it. It's very simple, clean, good. Typography is good. Everything design-wise looks good. So I would say, yeah, if you're interested, check them out. Okay, and then I think I saw one other question here. Hi Satsuki, hello. What's the point when you shifted your career from graphic designer to painting artist? So the shift for me happened when I became very, very sick, and I couldn't work. I literally couldn't work anymore. And so for about 2.5 years, I was like not creating anything. Maybe I'll say like 2 years. And during those 2.5 years, a lot of shifts happened. Yeah, sure. A lot of shifts happened internally with myself, and connecting back to like my spiritual self and all the different parts of myself that were kind of fragmented, that I had hid under the rug almost, because I didn't know how to accept it or understand it of myself. It was kind of like an exploration period. And during that time, I was seeing like a psychologist, and I was reading all these books and trying to figure out like, what is it that I want to be doing? What is it that I feel like is my purpose on this planet? If there, is a purpose. At that point, I wasn't sure. Yeah, I have ink all over my hands. And so the shift happened when during that 2.5 years, I heard a voice to paint. And I've kind of talked about this a little bit on interviews, but kind of to condense it. After hearing that voice, I decided to explore painting after a certain period of time. And ever since then, it's been like a life-altering change. I don't know, it's nothing like I've ever experienced in my life as far as a creative. And I've been doing this since 2000. Well, I've been a creative for a long time, but as far as like a profession, I've been doing it since like 2010, 2011. So it's been a while. And and the painting was very unexpected turn of events, and it's been so wonderful. And even though it can be struggling, like I can struggle with it, a lot from time to time, I've never felt so in tune with, I think, creativity and like the spirit, and I don't know, it's just very freeing. So so it's been, that shift happened, I think, because of my illness, and kind of having that stop, I think, placed upon me without, it definitely wasn't by choice. And but through that I was able to really explore and learn about myself more, and come out the other end, I think, with my practice. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, last question here, and then I'm going to start painting. So the question is, when did you have your breakthrough moment when you were like, this is it, this is my art form, and this is what I want to give to the world? Thank you, Hikarui. That's from her. Okay, so kind of in the same line of what I was just sharing, was that the aha moments that have continued to happen in my practice, I think it is always, well, the first big one was when I heard that message to paint, and then I started painting 2014, I think, 2014 August. And then even then it wasn't still like, this is it. I was starting to kind of warm up to the idea of painting, and even then it wasn't about career or anything. It was just purely exploring that message. And then the moment came, okay, so one big pivotal moment was, I was painting for a while. There was one time when I came into the studio one day when I finally just wasn't feeling any of it, and I just thought to myself, I want to paint what I'm feeling. What does that look like? I don't even know. I'm just going to do it. And I intuitively painted, and what came on the paper was something I've never seen before, at least for me. And that's when I knew, like, oh, like, this is it. Like, I felt goosebumps and shivers and all the things that you can think of. So that was like one pivotal moment. And then another one was when I shared it online for the first time after a good friend had really supported and almost like pushed me to do it, because I was saying like, no, I can't share this, I don't think anybody's gonna like it. It's just, I don't think I've ever seen any watercolor abstract painting like the way that I was doing at the time. At least I hadn't seen it. I'm sure it was out there, but I just hadn't come across it. So I felt like, oh, people are gonna think it's ugly, or like, what the hell she's doing, because that's not what I was known for up until that point. So I was really hesitant. But after my friend had kind of supported me to do it, and then I heard, I saw the responses from people, and just the way that it ignited, others, it made me realize, like, wow, this is something that is beyond my own, I don't know how to say it, like, it's just kind of beyond me. And that's when I thought, oh wow, this is really, this is very powerful. For me, at least, it was a very powerful moment where I felt like, oh, I'm really connecting with what I'm doing. And it had nothing to do with like making money or becoming famous or doing it for a career, nothing. It was just purely an exchange of something that I really felt passionate about with others who were equally feeling connected to it. And that was so special. And I think that was kind of, probably the biggest pivotal moment, at least in my career, where I decided, okay, maybe there's something more here to explore. And then since then, it's been just kind of continually honing in on that feeling and making sure I don't lose that, and always tuning in. It's never like, okay, well, I figured it out, that's it. It's never like that. It's always tuning back in. Anytime I feel off, figuring out, okay, why do I feel off? What is it about it? So, so I think that was kind of the moments that changed things for me. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, now it's time to paint. And welcome to everybody that's coming on. Thank you so much for joining. Oh, okay, there we go. Thank you for joining. Okay, hold on. Let me move over here so I can show you my little station. Ta-da! Okay, so I'm going to be painting for a little bit because that was also one of the requests that I got for Instagram Live. Let me see if I can set this up. Can you all see okay? Hold on, let me... Alright. And I see a question there. It says, do you paint in other styles as well today after your watercolor abstract paintings being wide known? I tried different ways of painting, and yes, I think that I do, but it's not... I still feel called to do abstract painting, whether it's oils or watercolor. Hello. Oils or watercolor, and so I continue to go back to that, I think, because it's something that I want to continue exploring, and I love it so much. It's really, for me, it's very fulfilling, I think, to do abstract watercolor. Okay, so I'm just gonna paint. Oh! Sorry about that. Wow, just got rejected. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can put you guys back on here. Sorry about that. That was so unexpected. Okay. Let me see if I can adjust this again. Yeah, I know. Seriously. Sayaka-san. Wara wara wara, hontoni. Okay. Does that work? Can you guys see okay? Okay. There. Alright, let's try this again. Okay. And I'll kind of talk through it while I'm painting, just because I know another person had asked, how do I choose colors when I'm painting? And so I'm going to kind of talk through it. But a lot of it's very intuitive, and so I really just go with the flow and whatever comes out. So hopefully you'll be okay with that. Okay, so today what I want to do is something a little experimental, and what that is I'm going to try to channel all of your energies, or the energy from the live session today, and see what comes out of it. So there's going to be a lot of different shapes, colors, the things that I've been kind of sensing while I've been talking with all of you. I'm going to try to capture on the paper here all of your energies and what we've been talking about. So we'll see what comes up. Okay. All right. So I usually have like a piece of paper that I use to test colors on. So I'm going to be using that. Can you see that in the paint? Oh yeah, you can. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so today I'm seeing like very somebody had like this kind of rosy pink color. And right now, the way that I'm choosing colors is based on what I have been sensing while I was kind of talking. And because there are a lot of you, it was very, there's like a lot of different things happening within what I was capturing. So it's just kind of being mindful of that. And then there's some coming in. Do that. And I tend to work left hand and right hand. I mean, my right hand is definitely the dominant hand, but I sometimes have too many visual things happening in my mind at one time, and so I need my left hand to capture it as soon as possible. Oops, did that mess up the camera? Good, okay. So I need my left hand to capture as soon as possible, because sometimes that moment is fleeting, especially when I'm working in watercolor, and so I just need to get in there right away and add that marking, and otherwise the paint will dry and you know, I might not be able to get it by the time I switch hands and I'm, you know, ready to go with the other hand. So I usually go left hand, right hand, and that all depends on like what I'm working on, and I think how I'm working for that day as well. So now there's one of the people who joined today had a very gentle, like peachy feel to it. So I'm gonna add that in, and they just kind of, it felt like they just kind of joined in and were in the background, a part of the conversation, but just kind of quietly and gently watching. So, and what I love also about watercolor is that I feel like it has kind of like this I don't know, it has like a life of its own, whereas with oil painting, it's more for me like a meditative practice. So I don't know, it's different, but yeah, with watercolor, it's almost like I just have to go with whatever it wants to do, and I'm here helping to guide it in a way, but not particularly exactly manipulating it. Oh, this color is so pretty. Also, when I pick colors, it's just anything that when I'm looking at my color, like pencils, for example, palette, I'll just see something that's calling out to me like Mimi, and then I'm like, okay. And they appear on the paper. So it can be as simple as that. I'm not really thinking through right now. I'm just kind of letting whatever comes through come through, and yeah, not being too selective of. It's definitely more of a feeling thing, I think, for me when I'm painting versus a logical, like, oh, color theory, like, okay, this, matches with this more than that. But I think that also comes from the fact that I love colors. I've always loved them since I was little. And so I think it really helps with knowing, like, what, I gravitate towards when I'm working. And I'm sensing this. And sometimes when I'm working, I'll hear like sounds in my head, and so I'll go ahead and add those like different markings in. And then I'll take a moment to kind of see what's happening on the paper. Do I feel it? Is there something else that's calling out to me? And if it's yes, I'll keep going. And then eventually I'll get to a point where it's like, you're done. And I'm like, okay, that's it. Anytime that I get too much in the head and I start thinking through things, then that becomes a problem, because then I overwork the painting, and then it just and then I just lose it. Like, okay, and I have to either leave it or come back to it at another time, because yeah, I'll just completely detach. So I try to not get too involved. And it's hard not to, but sometimes I try not to get too involved in the actual process of painting. Once I'm on the paper, I just kind of let go and flow with the painting, flow with the painting. People coming in, people coming out, and just, yeah, because honestly, I don't know, for me it's like just painting, it's so I feel very, very, I'm very grateful to be able to do this as work, because it's just, my soul feels so free. I don't know if any of you saw my recent Instagram story where I shared this ugly Christmas sweater that I found of Bob Ross. If any of you are familiar with him, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you're not, check him out on YouTube or something. But I love Bob Ross because while he paints, he used to talk, which is kind of what this is reminding me of. And it's so sweet the way that he paints. He talks about like pretty little trees and things like that. And yeah, I used to love watching his little segments on TV where he would just paint and he looks so happy, and I feel the same way when I'm working right now. It's just so freeing and I love it. And you just kind of, let it do its thing. And even all this stuff in the middle, you're like, it's not like something you control, you just kind of go with it and let the work guide you, one stroke at a time, one expression at a time, until eventually, like I was saying, the painting will just say, oh, you're done. And I try to honor that as much as possible and not second guess myself. Just definitely harder said than done. And for those who also had a question about like how long a painting, or is it okay if a painting doesn't take that long, or all these other things, is my belief is that before I used to feel really guilty if I didn't work on a painting for like X amount of time compared to like how much it costs or whatever. But in reality is that there's a lot of preparation that takes place prior to coming onto the canvas or the painting that people they just don't know about. And it's okay. Like, everybody has a different process. Some processes take a long time. Some people, who are doing like maybe a circle or something, that's like their work. Maybe it only takes them a few minutes, or maybe even a few seconds, and ooh, that's pretty. And that's okay, and I don't think that is equivalent to how good your work is or how much it costs. It just is your process, So, ooh. Oh, I think I'm getting close to being done here. Okay, so here's a point where I feel, okay, there's a part of me that's like, you're done. And then there's a part of me that's like, this is just one little spot that I want to add something to. So what am I going to do? I'm going to add it. How? Let me think here. Let's see. Do I want to add this? どうしようかな. In Japanese, どうしよう means what to do. Here are these are my little crayons, water soluble crayons. These are really fun too if you're into like something a little bit more heavier in weight than color pencils. These are really fun to work with because they're, there we go. See? And then it's kind of fun. Like I'm testing things out and I don't really know what I'm looking for. I just know I'm looking for something. But when I hit it, then I know. And this is exactly where I want to put it. Why? I don't know. It's just intuitive. Something inside me intuitively is like, you gotta add that there. Okay. And there. And then, now that I've added that element, I gotta add one more thing. Let's see. So this is kind of the process that I go through where, once I get closer to the finishing, it's almost like I'm just fine-tuning things. This is actually a gold pigmented watercolor paint it's just so beautiful. And when it dries, it's like this orangey gold, not so dark color. So I love how it just kind of sits and glimmers on top. And just like your energies that were shining through, even though you're on the screen and we might be far apart from each other or not, we're connected, and kind of this pigment is kind of the representation of that, all the beautiful shining energies that are kind of coming through. So, okay, now I am done. I'm not touching this anymore, otherwise it's gonna go into that weird realm. Okay, so now let me show you from my point of view how it looks. Can you guys see? Okay, so, sorry, it's a little bit skewed, but I'll show you kind of close up. So if you can tell kind of the gold, that's like the gold right there. Really pretty. And then there's like a little bit of, can you see that? It's kind of dark. Yeah, it's like the silver paint. And then all the different, everybody kind of mingling together here, all the different energies coming together there. And once that dries, it's going to look different too, which is going to be really great. And then you have some people coming in here and here. And then it's like, there's like this clump of energy here. And then we have like little stagglers. And then we'll have more interconnectivity here with people. And it's just this global, I don't know, what I was visualizing was kind of like, maybe it makes more sense this way actually. So it's like, this part of the world, this part of the world, we're all kind of coming together, to be one with this moment together. I don't know. Am I getting a little bit too philosophical? Maybe. But yeah, but that's kind of like the sense of what I was feeling and sensing. And you have different types of energies. So you have like strong energies coming through, and you have gentle, and just all the different types of people and places. And maybe I'll put a photo up of when this dries, because it'll look different. The pigments will look different as well. So I'll put this up on Instagram, my feed, so that you can kind of see how that looks. Okay, so you can see my kitchen. Okay, so hopefully, is this better? Oh, that's brighter. Okay, so hopefully that kind of gave you an idea of a process from start to finish, how I work on a painting. It's just one version. I have, like oil paintings and things like that, but just one way of working. And let me move around here a little bit more. It's kind of a little bit dark there. Okay. There, it's brighter. So it's kind of another way of working, and just has so much fun. I really do love painting. So anyways, thank you so much for joining today. Let me see if there's any questions. I'm going to scroll real quick. Hold on. Ooh, let's see. I didn't see all of your messages here, so I'm scrolling. Hello, thank you so much for joining. Oh man, thank you so much. Everybody is so sweet with all your messages. Okay, it's still scrolling. Okay, I saw that question. Oh, thank you so much. I'm really happy that you all enjoyed watching the video of me painting. Oh, hi Mogu. Thank you so much. Wow, thank you all so much for such sweet messages. I didn't know this is what you were writing when I was painting. You're all so nice. Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah, I'll post a photo later. Oh, aloha. Welcome. Okay, so I don't see any questions. Thank you so much, Sayaka-san. I really appreciate it. Okay, one question before I go. What kind of oil sticks do you use, and how do you preserve those paintings? Does it need to be sprayed to be protected? Okay, I can show you oil sticks. Hold on, I'm walking over here. So the type I use are these R&F. Sorry, it's out of focus. R&F oil sticks, and I mix them also with regular oil pastels when I'm painting with them. And I find that preservation-wise, it's a little bit tough because of the nature of it. And I do use, I have to say, I just use caution when I'm painting with it. I don't use it often. And it tends to be in areas where, I don't have to cover it too much. I do have fixatives. Sometimes I use it, but honestly, it kind of changes the way that the painting looks, so I don't use it all the time, just to be honest. And so I would say probably play around with it a little bit. See if the oil sticks, after you preserve it, if it looks okay. I would say definitely use a spray fixative if possible to kind of go over it lightly, just so that it doesn't change the way that your painting looks with it. Okay, oops, sorry. So I'm going to wrap up today's live session, so I don't keep you all too long, but thank you so much for joining. I am so happy to be able to be on with you and share some time with you today. It's been a while. As I shared with you earlier, I'm going to be posting this on YouTube after 24 hours. So both videos will be on there. You can watch it there as well. I will be taking a break from the studio, probably April. I'm due in April. So April, May, I'll definitely be taking some time off. I'm hoping I'll be back maybe July, August. And during that time, I don't know how things are gonna be. I've never had this is my first baby, so I'll have to see how things go. But I definitely want to connect with you again and share this process and this journey with you as much as I possibly can. I always appreciate your support and your love and all your messages. This means so very much to me. Please know that I read every single one of them, and I have so much love for all of you. Thank you so much. I think I'm gonna cry. I'm so emotional. But yeah, thank you so much. And you can find me on Instagram here, Satsuki Shibuya, on Twitter. I share some fun little articles and thoughts if you're into my writing and quotes. I share it there a lot. I have my newsletter at satsukishibuya.com/newsletter. You can sign up for my once a month letter that I write. And I only share on the newsletter, so you'll be if you sign up, you'll be the only one. There's certain things in there that you'll be like the first to know, and exclusively on there. Where else am I? I'm on Pinterest and Facebook under Satsuki Shibuya as well, so you can find me there. But thank you again. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Sending you all so much light and love, and just so thankful for your presence and being a part of this. I'm so grateful to be able to share this with you. And yeah, I guess I will see you on here again soon. Until then, please take care.